countries. When they're in their teens, they're like the tropics. Hot and dangerous. When they're in their 20s, their 30s, they're like America. Young and full of promise. Abundant in natural resources. When they're in their 40s, their 50s, they're like Europe. Decimated, but still interesting in parts. When they're in their 70s, their 80s, they're like Australia. Nice. Everybody knows where it is. But who wants to make the trip? I got enough money to last me the rest of my life. If I want to buy something, then there's a problem. My parents are in the iron and steel business. My mother irons. My father steals. These are my gags, my routine. If you had caught me 15, 20 years ago, then I'd have stories for you. But now I'm on my way out. I'm trying to get out of here in the next 10 to 15 days. I'm moving. I'm going to stay with my son outside Philadelphia. And I have things to do, and these things take time. T-I-M-E, which is something I don't got. I found these things behind. I gave away 500 books while I'm moving. This was my father's. He came here when he was 14, after he just bar mitzvahed from Hungary in 1902. His father had remarried. He couldn't stand his new mother. So, he came to America all by himself with nothing but his tefillin, his tallis that his grandmother handmade for him, and the shirt on his back. He got a place on the Bowery. Before it was all derelicts and drunks. When it was you could raise a family. Gets a job as a waiter. Honest profession. He was one of the smartest guys I knew. Yeah, he didn't go to school a day in his life, but back then it was school schmool. He once said to me, this is my father, he was so smart. He takes a bunch of bananas. He takes one, he separates it from the bunch. He says, Alex, this is why we go to synagogue. This is why we don't pray alone. The one banana, it goes rotten before the rest of them. You know, I found this book he had. It's his checkbook. It's not exactly a checkbook. It was a book. He kept track of himself. How much did he make day to day? At one point, he's up to $10,000. In today's money, that's like $1 million. And then the crash came. I was very young. I'm 85. I was born in 1926. 1929. You'd go to the bank. They wouldn't open the door. They wouldn't let you in. You'd ask for your money. They don't got none. People was throwing themselves off of the roofs of buildings. But not my father. He says, Alex, we'll go somewhere. We'll start a new life. We moved to the Bronx. Well, that's part of my story. I don't have the time for this. All right, I'm giving it to you. So, I'm 7 years old. I was a Zionist all my life. I'm in second grade. I'm still a little pisher. I have this teacher. He teaches me. I learn Hebrew. I can daven. I can read from the Mishnah. He teaches us songs. Gayenu, Hava Negila. I go home one day. I say to my mother, Mama, I want to make Aliyah. I want to go to Eretz Israel. She says, Alex, that's very nice, but you're only 7 years old. You have to mature. Study, graduate, and then when you grow up, I'll give you permission to go to Israel. So, I'm 20 years old. The war has just ended. I see Ben-Gurion. He says, he's the prime minister. He says, there will be an independent state. It will not be under British rule, and it will not be called Palestine. It'll be called Eretz Israel. I say, oh man, that's it. I gotta go. Now my mother does not get to see any of this. She died that May. I'm saying Kaddish for her. I go down to get my passport from the passport office. They're not issuing passports to anyone between the ages of 18 and 25, male or female, who wants to go to Israel. Because that's the military age. They don't want him to fight for Israel in the army. I write my pop a note. I find a boat and I stow away. There's 200 people on this boat. Half Arabs, half Jews. They have to separate us on the boat. The first stop is Beirut. The second stop is Haifa. The boat lands. Now, if it was a week before, it would have been the British government. An Israeli government official comes to meet the boat. I run up to the front to be the first one to meet him. I speak perfect Hebrew. I say to him in perfect Hebrew, "Papers schmapers, I don't got nothing. I got the shirt on my back and my tefillin. Maybe a change of underwears." They say, "Okay, you want to stay? You want to go back?" I said, "Are you kidding? I want to stay." They say, "Okay, you're going to fight in the military?" I said, "Man, this is my life's dream. I'll fight for Israel. I'll die for Israel. I want to live here. I want to, just to get my hands in the soil of Eretz Israel." So they trained me. I joined the Haganah. This is Ben Guren's Haganah. Big Starker bulls are training me. They're the partisans. You know who the partisans are? You know, what you say defines you. All right, well, the partisans in World War II, they're killing our people. They're putting us in the camps to die. They're putting us in the ovens to burn. These guys, they escape from the concentration camps. They're hiding in the woods during the day. At night, they come out. They kill as many Nazis as they can. These guys are training me. I'm more scared of them than I am of the Arabs. I do something wrong, they knock you. And the Arabs, they got us surrounded from every side. There's millions of them. There's only 600 Jews. They want to see nothing better than to push us into the sea. That's the War of Independence. It goes on for 1.5 years. And thank God we won. So then, I don't want to be a lifetime soldier. I go to join a kibbutz, Orthodox, very famous. I'm teaching. I have a certificate from yeshiva in Hebrew. One day I remember, my teaching runs late. I miss the davening. I miss the evening prayer. Now, since I was bar mitzvah, I never missed morning or night. I think to myself, oh, God didn't come down, lightning didn't strike me dead. So I let that go. Life is in stages. Still, I'm happy. I'm living my dream to be there. I'm corresponding by mail with my father. He's not well. He's remarried, and he can't stand his new wife, her cooking. She's Russian, and everything is sweet, sweet, sweet. He was used to it with my mother, the Hungarian food with flavors and spices. For whatever reason, he leaves her. He writes to me. He says, "Alex, none of your siblings," I have 2 sisters and a brother, "none of them care about the old man, an old man. You're the only one who cares." I'm the kind of guy, I love my pop. I go to the guys who are in charge of the kibbutz. I tell them, "Listen, I'm not leaving. This is my life's dream to be here. But my father's not well. I want to go home. I want to give him kizik." They call it kizik. I want to give him encouragement. But I'm coming back. I go back to New York. I come home. I put my arm around my papa. I say, "Pop, everything's going to be all right." And during that time, I get a little job. I'm teaching Hebrew, Torah. I'm a heterosexual man. I'm dating. In the Bronx, Westchester, New Rochelle. I can't meet anyone I like to like. When you're young, it's hard to find someone. A friend of a friend of a friend recommends someone in the Lower East Side. Lower East Side? I don't know where that is. I go to drive down there, I overshoot it. I end up in Williamsburg. I have to make a U-turn and come back. Anyway, I meet my wife. That's part of my story. It's exhausting. I can't do it. You want my story? I'm giving you my story. I'm giving it to you. You'll be happy the rest of your life. You marry yourself a nice a nice Jewish girl. A nice Jewish kid. I meet a woman who is going to be my wife. She introduces me to a mother, a Polish, a Polish woman, and I don't give her the respect that she is due, and I regretted that. She says to Clara, I don't speak much Yiddish at the time, but I know what she says. She says, "Is this the best you could do?" I laughed. I thought it was amusing. So my father is so happy with his new daughter-in-law. We have a child, another one's on the way. She says, "Alex, the money you're making, your earnings from teaching, your salary is not going to cover. Why don't you come work in the luggage shop on Sundays?" They had a luggage shop on Orchard Street. Altman Luggage. Now, back then, everyone wanted to come to the Jewish neighborhood for the bargains. And it was so popular, not like now you got to pull them off the corner. Back then we were turning them away. Orchard Street up and down, it was the center of financial commerce. You go all the way down to Eldridge Street, it was a very Jewish neighborhood all the way around. There's still a yeshiva on a canal and Broadway. I sent my kids to yeshiva on Avenue B and A Street. There were synagogues on 10th Street, Avenue C, Avenue D. They're not there anymore. They had churches, community centers. I don't know if you know this. If you do, you don't. Still, from Houston Street up to 14th Street on 2nd Avenue, there were 6 Yiddish theaters. You ever hear of Moshe Oyashe? Moshe Skolnick? It's another generation. Yeah, they had theater. It's 6 days a week. People were working in the sweatshops. They wanted to be entertained. You'd look down Grand Street, there'd be stiebel after stiebel. You know what a stiebel is? Where have you been hanging out? A stiebel. You know what a shtetl is? In the old country, you'd have a shtetl. It was a little village, and in the shtetl, you'd have a stiebel, a little place of worship where you could get together to pray. And it's not a big synagogue like Bialystok Shul or the Young Israel and the Eldridge. That's all that's left. A little place. The Jewish people are a moving people. They want to go on to greener pastures. As do I. But you're getting in the way of... Anyway. So I'm at the luggage shop. Now, I'm a very good salesman. At the time, some of the clientele was Spanish speaking. I don't speak any Spanish. Now, they wouldn't put the prices on, it wasn't that kind of place. They'd tell you the minimum you could sell for $45. I'd start at $85, they'd chew me down. The anti-Semites would say they chew me down. They chew me down. They bargain me down. I didn't speak any Spanish. I'd say uno, dos, tres. I could give them the price. I go to study at night Spanish. And oh, do I learn Spanish. I can speak 7 languages. Spanish, French, Italian. I can read and write as well as English. Hebrew, Yiddish, English, a little bit. And also a stick of Arabic, Russian, and Hungarian. So that goes on. I've left teaching. 40 years, I think I was there. So at one point, I say to my wife, I ask her, I say, the hot day was Sunday. Every day was a good day, but Sunday was the best. Saturday, we wouldn't work for the Sabbath, but you couldn't go for a drive. You couldn't do anything nice. You couldn't invite someone over for a nice dinner. Have dinner on a Tuesday. Who wants to have a dinner on a Tuesday? So I say to her, listen, let's not honor the Sabbath. We go on stages. Eventually we have to sell the place. My wife is not well. I get into another business. I make up this stationery. East Side Senior Volunteer Group. It's a phony baloney company. It doesn't exist. I'd send to Avery Fisher, town hall, churches. Sometimes they have nice shows. I'd ask them for tickets. I'd say, we have this group. They'd say no. They wouldn't get back to me. Sometimes I'd get a call. Okay, how many? That was music to my ears. I'd say 20? 5? They'd say, okay, pick them up an hour before the show. I'd go down to get them. I had problems with the police sometimes because, you know, it is illegal to sell tickets, especially at the place. But mostly, I had problems with the goyim, these other scalpers. They'd see what I'm doing. They'd say, listen, if you don't sell us some tickets, you're not going to be able to work. So I get this big stalker guy from my building, Alan Schuster. I give him $100. He comes down. He says, hey, leave the guy alone. Let him do his work. So that went on. One day I'm getting ready to go out to work. I'm tired. I don't want to go out. My wife is ill. She says, Alex, do you have to go out tonight? I take the money from the night before I had earned. I put it on the waiter's table. I waited for a while as well. She tabulates it with a pen and paper. She says to me, Alex, with the money, this is $700, $900 if you count what the taxes we'd have to pay. This is more than from the luggage shop. So I went out again that night. I had another job. My wife and I, we love to dance. Foxtrot, merengue, tango. It was so romantic to dance the tango with my wife. I saw an ad once. Arthur Murray Dance School. No experience necessary. We'll train you. My antennas went up. I did that in the summers while I was teaching. 2 months a year. I had 3 loves in my life. My wife, my daughter. I had 3 kids. My son, he's in Florida. He's a no-goodnik. I don't want to talk about him. My son outside Philadelphia, he's just adopted 2 Chinese girls. My daughter, she was the apple of my eye. Daddy's little girl. I remember she came to me one time. She said, 6 years old, Papa, where did I come from? Oh, I think to myself, Oiga Volk, what am I going to do? How am I going to explain? I make up a cockamamie story. There used to be, I don't know if you know, you go down to the subways, you put a penny into the subway, the vending machine, out would come a piece of gum, a piece of candy. I told her one time I put in a penny instead of a piece of gum. Out came you. She bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. I was off the hook. I didn't have to explain intercourse, sex. I remember she comes back to me. She's a young woman at the time. She's married already. She says, Papa, you remember that story about the gumball? I found out. That isn't how it works. She was a real cutie. She loved kids. She'd pick them up. She'd hold them. She couldn't have any of her own. They had removed everything from her body that makes it possible to have a child. But she loved them. She taught them. She and my wife, same thing. Breast cancer. It ravages the bones. It eats away at the body. It's deadly for my wife is 68. When I lost my wife, I thought I'd never love again. I'd go down to the senior center. $1.50, you get a lunch if you're a senior. It's a good deal. I see this woman. I go up to her. We get along like bread and butter. We're inseparable. I say to her at one point, I had asked her to marry me. You can't make a horse drink. I say to her, listen, why don't you come live with me? I have a 3-bedroom, 2 full bedrooms. She says, no, I don't want to ruin anything. I I said, come on. Today, 2011, I'm paying $1,000 for this place. She says, no. So we date. That goes on for 6 years. She dies too. Pancreatic cancer. So that's my story. And listen, I'm not sorry I did it. I don't regret it. But I'm asking you now a favor. Please, you got my story. Don't follow up. Don't follow me. I've worked like a dog all my life, and now I want to reap the rewards. I'm going. Who's going to see this? I'm going to a senior center in the Bronx for assisted living because I find that I'm unable to take care of myself in a manner that I need. And listen, I love New York City. I know people come from all over the world. Europe, there's political turmoil. They want to come to America. And not only do they want to come to America, they want to come to New York. And not only do they want to come to New York, they want to come to Manhattan. And especially downtown, I love. I used to go to music and shows and Chinatown, Little Italy. Now I come home, it's empty. All I see is these four walls. Solomon wrote 3 books. When he was young and full of passion, he wrote Song of Songs. That is like a love poem between Hashem and Israel, between the Lord and the people of Israel. And then when he's older, he's wiser, he writes Proverbs. These are books from our Bible, whether you know it or not. And then when he's old, he writes his 3rd book. And he says, it is all vanity of vanities. Vanity of vanities, and that's what it is. How do I get into this? With you. You want my stories, you want my gags. I thought you want my routine. You want my life. That's no comedy. I did, okay, when I was 17, 16, I waited. I would go up to the Catskills, the Concord, Grossinger's. And I was a busboy the first year, waited the second year. There was no one over 18. They were all in the wall fighting. I was a yeshiva boy. It would allow me to get into the clubs. I saw all the best. Jack Benny, Red Buttons. Red Buttons? I developed a routine. Somewhere between the luggage and the tickets, I realized I was fun. I remember one time, it was my favorite. I go up to, there was a club on the Upper West Side, Stand Up New York. I knew the guy who ran and owned the place from yeshiva. My wife and I, we go one time. The price of admission, you buy a drink. These guys are trying out material, 4 minutes apiece. Boring! Boring! Next! Next! I say to my friend, I say, listen, with my eyes closed, my hands behind my back, I could be funnier than these guys. He says, okay, go ahead, give it a try. So I get up, I'm doing my routines, my jokes. I do 4 minutes, he says, next. The audience says, no, we don't want the other boring guys, we want him. I do 15, 20 minutes. Later, I could go back when I wanted. I do a set. He give me $100, $200. That's one of my starts. Telling jokes. Guy is standing on line for the bus in Haifa. He goes up to the line. He says, Yehud. He says, children of a merciful God. I'm saying it in English because you don't speak Yiddish. It's a Yiddish maxim. He says, children of a merciful God, you don't know what I got. Can I go ahead of you on the line? They say, okay. He goes up to the front of the line. He says to the bus driver, again, a child of a merciful God, you don't know what I got. Can I get on the bus for free? He lets him get on. It's a crowded bus. Guy gives up his seat to him. He gets up. Guy sits down, starts reading the newspaper like nothing's doing. The gentleman who gave him the seat taps him on the side. He says, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt. I don't want to bother you. I'm curious. I have to ask, what is it you have? He says, what do I got? What do I got? I got chutzpah like you wouldn't believe. I got a nerve. Okay, a woman goes to get on the bus, but she can't get up. Her skirt is too tight, so she lowers the zipper. But the zipper...
Ich bin noch gewesen klein, hab ich mein Mann gepflegt und erschienen. Will ich sein Urem, will ich sein Reich, geändert hat's mir. Was soll sein, wird sein, am besten ich werd nicht frei.